Hi, boys and girls. We are going to read chapter 10 of Chocolate Fever today, okay? Chapter 10 Taking a Licking. They traveled for a long time. Lefty was driving very carefully, making sure that he kept the big truck within the speed limit. From his perch up in the bunk, Mac was keeping a watchful eye on the route. Henry tried to keep watch too, but as the hours flew by, he found himself nodding. He was soon asleep, his head cradled on Mac's chest. As the first streaks of dawn appeared in the eastern sky, the big man was still holding his arms about the boy, cushioning his body from the shocks and jolts of the road. As the truck shifted gears and slowed, Henry's eyes opened. Shh, Mac whispered, a finger held to his lips. Where are we? Henry whispered in return. Mac put his mouth almost against Henry's ear. Before he answered, he said, Far out in the country, he said, a long way from nowhere. Now, when we get where we're going, he continued, I want you to keep a sharp eye on me. Don't do anything sudden and don't run. Let's just be very careful, here? Henry nodded. He would follow Mac's lead and do as he was told. The big man was a person you could trust, especially in a tight spot. They were traveling along a two-lane road now, with just a few houses set wide apart. Lefty was driving the big truck very slowly, looking right and left at every crossroad. Any time now we're going to turn off, Mac whispered. Henry agreed. They must be very close to the thieves' hideout, he thought. Lefty slowed the truck almost to a crawl and turned down a small dark dirt road. The truck bounced along the narrow track, turning right and left through the trees, and in a few minutes came to a stop in the grove of pines near a small wooden cabin. When Lefty turned off the motor, Louie called up to them. Gentlemen, we have arrived. Last stop, everybody off. Lefty and Louie opened the cab doors and stepped down out of the truck. Easy now, you two, Louie said as Mac and Henry joined them. No sudden moves, no funny business, no tricks, right? No tricks, Mac said quietly. Louie had his gun in his hand again, Henry could see. With the gun pointed squarely at Mac, the thieves led them into the cabin. It had one room, dirty and desolate looking. A wooden table and chair stood in one corner, and Louie prodded Mac and Henry in that direction. There were no windows in the cabin and no light either, until Louie lit a small lantern hung from the rafters. Lefty pulled a chair over near the door and sat there, gun in hand, watching carefully. Well now, Mac said, what comes next? What comes next is up to you, Louie said. Play it smart and we'll leave you here when the job's over. Give us trouble and you don't want to give us any trouble. With that, Louie drew a chair near Lefty, and the two of them fell into quiet conversation. Lefty was angry, that much was clear. What do we do with a load of candy? They heard him say. Louie spent most of his energy trying to keep Lefty calm. Looks like our friends over there bought a pack of trouble, Mac said to Henry. Instead of furs, they got something they didn't want. Ha ha, said Henry, and they both had a quiet chuckle, followed by several minutes of quiet giggles. When their mirth had subsided, Henry asked Mac what was really going to happen. I don't know, Mac said, except for this. If either one of them tries to put a hand on you, I will personally lay them out flat, gun or no gun. There was a kind of iron in Mac's voice now, and Henry was sure that when the moment came, the big man would be ready for it. Just then, out of the corner of his ear, Henry heard a faint and faraway sound. It could have been a dog barking. Mac heard it too, and the two of them sat, quietly listening. It was barking all right, but now there seemed to be two dogs barking. Mac put his hand on Henry's arm. No noise now, he said. Listen. The barking got louder and closer, and as the seconds ticked by, Louie and Lefty had heard it too. They stood near the closed door, listening for all they were worth. You had to be deaf not to hear the chorus of yelps and yells. It was getting louder and louder with every moment. Keep them covered, Louie shouted against the din. I'm going to go see what's happening. Lefty shuffled over the corner where Mac and Henry sat, his pistol drawn, looking them straight in the eyes. Louie, gun in hand, opened the door and froze on the spot, but only for a split second, for at that exact moment a big German shepherd came sailing through the door and landed on Louie's chest. Louie was knocked flat on his back, his pistol clattered across the room. Behind the German shepherd came a whole army of yelping, barking dogs, all heading straight for Henry. Arendales, Dobermans, a brown and white collie, several spaniels and setters, and a small French poodle. They were yelping and There was yelping and jumping and barking, enough to fill the little cabin with noise and confusion. Lefty was stunned, speechless, absolutely confused by the dog riot that was taking place before him. But Mac knew what it was all about. In a flash, he pounced on Lefty, took the pistol right out of his hands. Then he leaped to where Louie's gun had fallen and scooped that one up too. One gun in each hand, Mac whirled to face the pair of confused crooks. Louie was still on the floor. Lefty was surrounded by a pack of yip-yapping dogs. Even if he wanted to run, he couldn't. Henry, of course, was the star attraction for the animal army. They were licking him as if he was some sort of new dog yummy. His arms and legs and face were covered with happy licking dogs, and all of it made him laugh so hard he could hardly protest. While all of this was going on, still more dogs were racing into the tiny cabin, and behind them came people, most of them with leashes in their hands, and all of them with the same puzzling story. They had been out walking their dogs when, one after another, the animals had put their nose in the air, sniffed wildly, and then began racing madly along the dirt road, as if following an irresistible scent. Now, what could they have been done? What could have made those animals behave so strangely? And what about those pistols? And what was going on in this cabin anyway? Why did the place smell like a chocolate shop? It took about an hour and the arrival of the local police to sort it all out. Mac had a lot of explaining to do, but when it was over, Louie and Lefty were handcuffed, and as they were being led away, Henry heard Lefty mutter, "We go after furs, we get candy bars. We get to our hideout, we're invaded by dogs. It's getting so a man can't make a dishonest living anymore." "Ha ha," said Mac and Henry together. As the police car turned out of sight at the end of the tree-lined dirt road, they were still laughing. "Come on, kid," said Mac between chuckles. "We still have some candy to deliver." And chapter 11 is called At Sugar Canes, and we'll read that tomorrow. Bye!